farmers are already gearing up for next year's planting season, and having the right solutions for in-furrow application can make all the difference. Well, tonight, learn about SIMPAS-applied Solutions from the experts with AMVAC, the versatility, the proven treatments, and the technology you need to turn yield barriers into profit potential. Well, good evening and welcome to Rural America Live. I'm Marlon Bowling with you. We're always looking for ways to help farmers get more out of their fields, and there's no such thing as planting too early for next season. Well, here with me tonight is SIMPAS Product Portfolio and Alliances Director Jim Lappin and SIMPAS Technologies Commercial Manager Jason Jimerson. Well, thank you both for being here tonight. I appreciate that very much. Good to have you on board.
Thank you, Mark.
Thanks for stopping in, Jason. Jim, if you would, let's talk about AMVAC and your connection. How did you get involved with the company? Give us a little idea of your background, how you ended up where you are now.
So I grew up on a grain and livestock operation in central Illinois, so I've always been engaged in agriculture my whole life. Some of the parts of the farm that my brother still farms have been in the family over 150 years, so I feel deeply connected to agriculture. I went on from that upbringing to get an ag science degree at Western Illinois University. And from there, I started work for some chemical companies, first with one of the majors. And then over the last 42 years, I've worked for several major manufacturers, as well as a couple of small companies. And for the last 6 have been with AMVAC, and here the last 3 focused on SIMPAS.
Okay. Well, again, thanks for coming on board tonight. Can't wait to learn all about the system that we're going to be talking about. All right, Jason, tell us about yourself.
Thanks, Marlon, for having us.
You bet.
So unlike Jim, I didn't grow up on a farm or a ranch, but I grew up with a passion for agriculture. My dad, Bill Jimerson, was an ag ed instructor and FFA advisor for over 25 years in north central Montana, where I grew up. And because of his involvement with ag ed and FFA, he instilled that in me. And he also was a progressive teacher, really focused on new technology. He was one of the first to introduce GPS into his ag ed curriculum, and he was always looking for ways to make a difference and be a productive member of the agriculture community. And so he instilled that in me. I took that forward, got a couple of degrees from Montana State University, and spent about 10 years as a consultant in the ag industry, helping companies solve problems. And AMVAC was one of my clients, in fact. So just about 7 years ago, I got involved with SIMPAS as a project, and I've been fortunate to now be with AMVAC for going on 5 years, full-time focused on SIMPAS, taking it from a concept to now a reality. And it's been fun for me to take what I learned from my dad, looking at technology and bringing it forward to make a positive difference in the world, and how that applies to exactly what I do every day in bringing this SIMPAS technology forward.
So you're actually a native of Montana.
A native Montanan, yes, sir.
That's a beautiful part of the country there.
It's a wonderful place.
I'm a little jealous. I have never got to be in that area. You said Bozeman, right?
Bozeman is where I live now. I grew up in north central Montana, and we'd love to have you anytime, Marlon.
Let me take you up on that. Looking forward to that. All right, Jim, who is AMVAC? Tell us about that and its relationship with farmers here.
So AMVAC is a U.S.-based company. We've been in business over 50 years. We do a little over $500 million in business. We have a broad portfolio. We're in row crops. We're in specialty crops. We sell some products into some consumer markets as well as public health and safety markets. So pretty broad portfolio. We have 6 manufacturing assets here in North America, which makes us a little unique in that we're not overly reliant on foreign supplies of materials and components for what we manufacture here. Mm-hmm. And it gives us a little more flexibility when you have years like 2022, where not everything was readily available. We were able to adapt, meet the customer's needs, and continue to modify our production plans to keep those plants running to make sure we could supply the products they needed when they needed them.
So that's interesting. You actually were able to maybe avoid some of those pitfalls over the past year.
Well, it's interesting because we're in a cycle. So we're producing products now for next season. So we go through a process of estimating what opportunities, what demand there will be, and we create a production plan. But as you get closer to the planting season, there's always new information. Will the corn acres or soybean acres shift? Can I shift some production from February, March, and can I continue to run that production plant into the planting season if it's delayed to make sure I have enough product to get through the season.
So it says on the graphic technology solutions provider, you have delved into the precision ag part of the industry, which is really burgeoning here the last few years. Explain, if you would, the process that led you into precision ag and why you're such a success right now.
So AMVAC has expanded its portfolio beyond just synthetic chemistry. So we now have a focus on greener solutions, meaning more biological products.
Okay.
Some of the companies we've acquired over the last few years had positions in biologicals, so we've incorporated that on a global basis into our portfolio and are making a dedicated effort to grow that space. And if you look at agriculture and what are the segments in agriculture that are growing very rapidly, in addition to the biological segment, precision ag is growing at double digits here in the U.S. as well as globally. So that encompasses a lot of things. It encompasses equipment, it encompasses new types of products, it encompasses software and technology. So as a manufacturer, you're always trying to look to the future and ask your customers, where are you going to be? What are the needs you envision now, and what are the needs you envision 3-5 years from now, so you can move towards where the puck's going to be, as they say in hockey, to make sure you're providing solutions that are going to be relevant today, tomorrow, and into the near future.
Well, Jason, you have something called the SIMPAS-applied System. And if you would, I wanted you to take a moment here and explain exactly what that is to our audience.
Sure. So SIMPAS is actually an acronym, and we in the ag industry tend to love our acronyms. So it stands for Smart Integrated Multi-Product Prescription Application System. It's a bit of a mouthful, so we shortened it to SIMPAS. But it is an aftermarket solution that farmers can purchase equipment to go on the back of their planter to allow them to apply multiple products while they're planting.
So I'm glad you shortened it. I like the name SIMPAS a lot better. Not a bad deal. If you would, tell us about the key features of this. The SIMPAS-applied System, there's a little bit to this, and if you would, dive into this a little bit.
Sure. So we actually refer to it as the SIMPAS ecosystem. So
Okay.
we talk about not only the SIMPAS equipment, but also the SIMPAS-applied solutions that go through it and how it relates to the needs that can be addressed. So we've put together this video that shows not only the commercial equipment that's been in the field here that we see on the screen, but we'll talk about some of the key features of the SIMPAS ecosystem. So this is a picture of the row unit. It can fit on multiple different colors of row units. It's easy to install with planter-specific brackets. So you would take the specific bracket for your specific planter and install that right on the row unit, and the SIMPAS partition assembly fits right on top. And it will allow for you to install the SIMPAS, the smart cartridge containers that contain the SIMPAS-applied solutions. Those will be what carry the product to address those specific problems that you're addressing with the system. It is a closed delivery system, so when you put a container in, it's locked in place before the valve can open. So it eliminates the opening, pouring, and mixing. For farmers, that's better for safer and faster handling. And it's also giving the farmers the ability to deliver not only granular products, but liquid products as well. And we can see that you can switch it between a green row unit and a red row unit very easily with that planter-specific bracket for multiple makes and models. You can take out a granular smart cartridge container and install a liquid smart cartridge container and pump to apply that liquid product. Gives farmers versatility and flexibility to use products that meet the specific needs of their fields and their farming operation, so that they can develop prescription maps and apply those products row by row, control, going through the management zones, turning on and off automatically. It's ISO-based software in the tractor cab for the farmer to use, and then they can run through the field and the system automatically turns on and off to address those targeted agronomic needs in each specific field. So it allows that farmer flexibility in that planting pass to apply multiple products and address multiple issues and turning those yield barriers into profit potential. So we talk about the equipment, but it's all a part of the broader ecosystem that allows farmers to really address those agronomic needs specifically where they're needed and not applying product where it's not needed.
Well, if there was ever a year where it underscored the need for being efficient with a deal like this, where you're basically farming by the square foot practically these days, and the inputs are so expensive right now. I mean, This has got to be a huge money saver.
Absolutely. We talk about the fact that this allows farmers to make sub-field management decisions. They're not taking a big approach to apply a product everywhere. They can take an approach that allows them the versatility. Maybe they do have a product that they want to apply on every acre, but this allows them to say, you know, if I have nematodes in one specific area of my field and not in others, I can apply that nematicide just where it needs to go.
How did this come from the concept where it's a reality now? I mean, that had to be a bit of a winding trail there.
Sure. Well, this actually builds upon technology that we have brought forward previously. So AMVAC has had our SmartBox business for over 20 years in the market to deliver granular soil insecticides. And our president and CEO, Eric Wintemute, had the vision for SIMPAS to take that linear application of an insecticide everywhere and thinking of it more as an inkjet printer. So as you think about the inkjet printer turning on and off with the colors coming onto the page, he thought of that just the same as a SIMPAS system. So that's really where this started, was building upon the technology that we had in delivering products linearly with a SmartBox system, and we've progressed and evolved into this SIMPAS system that allows a farmer the versatility and the flexibility. They can still apply an insecticide through the system, but now they have options to apply other products to meet other needs that they have on their farming operation.
Well, that's what was fascinating about that graphic that you had a little bit ago, the animation that showed like an aerial view of the tractor and the planter where each box was just flashing on and off all the time. And it does it continuously, every row unit, all the way through the field. And every row unit can have 3 different compartments turning on and off?
Absolutely.
Independently?
Yep. Row by row control for 3 products.
Row by row, cartridge by cartridge control.
Cartridge by cartridge. And variable rate, et cetera.
The system has to be capable of doing multiple things. So there are growers today that are making linear applications of things like soil insecticides. So the system has to be able to continue to do that. So if they have a need in a field for a continual linear application of insecticides, the system can accomplish that. If they have a micronutrient where parts of the field call for a pound of zinc and some call for 2 or 3 or more, they can variable rate apply something like a micronutrient to get the right rate in the right place. And then you have more prescriptive applications. Let's say you have a zone where you have a specific agronomic need that doesn't represent a large percentage of the field. So you just target that area of the field where you have the problem. It improves efficiency, it improves the grower's return on investment for those dollars, hard dollars that they invest in those inputs.
Did anything come to mind this year, given the challenging year that we have had with producers all around the country? Some are dealing with flood problems, some are dealing with drought stress, some are dealing with high costs, limited availability on some supplies out there. Did it bring to mind something that could be an advantage for farmers that you really hadn't thought of before this year?
Well, one thing we know for sure is next year will be different than last year. So we're always getting changing environment. We can't always predict the pest pressure. We can't always predict the rainfall, either too much or not enough. Mm-hmm. So there are a couple different strategies growers can use with SIMPAS-applied Solutions. They can apply products preventively, saying, well, I've traditionally or historically had a problem with a pest or a disease or a particular issue, and apply a product preventatively. Or they can be more reactive to the environment. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So growers today use a wide variety of seed treatments, and one of those seed treatments are early season soil-applied fungicides. Mm-hmm. And it's typically 1 rate across that seed for the whole field. Well, what happens is the dose rate that you can put on a seed, there's only so much geography that you can cover on that seed coat. You have a limited amount of material, so that can only give you a short duration of protection. So if you're headed to the field and now you see that it's going to be a wetter year than you anticipated, to supplement what's on that seed, you can add an incremental treatment of the same chemistry that you used on the seed and now provide yourself a longer duration of protection based on the environment when you head to the field.
All right, so Jason, he brought up a term a little bit ago, prescriptive application compared to traditional application. Now that this has to be a world of difference with this new system that you have. Explain the difference to our audience, what we're talking about. Compare the old style traditional versus the way you can do things now.
Sure. So when we say traditional or linear, a lot of times in the past, a farmer had to make a decision of, do I apply that product across every acre? or do I not apply it at all? And so what happened was you'd have some situations where a farmer may know that they have an issue that needs to be addressed, but it didn't make economic sense for them to apply a product across the entire acre because not every part of it needed that treatment. With this system, the prescriptive approach allows a farmer to make those subfield management decisions. And so just because they only have a portion of their field or their acres that have a specific agronomic need doesn't mean that they have to forego putting that product down. Now, this prescriptive treatment allows them to take a prescription, load it into the system, and as you saw on the screen with that tractor turning on and off, now it'll be off in the zones where it doesn't need to be applied and on where it does. And so that's the prescriptive approach that can be taken. But as Jim said, this system will still allow the farmer the flexibility. If they want to apply an insecticide across every acre, they still have the ability to do that. But now they have the opportunity to address other problems that might be more prescriptive in nature.
Well, Jim, if you would, can you explain the range of types of products that are available through this SIMPAS system right now?
AMVAC is in the process of building a broad portfolio of products. Some of those products will be AMVAC-owned products. Others will be licensed from other companies, other manufacturers. It is an open platform, meaning that we've invited other manufacturers to bring forward their own solutions. When we went out and talked to growers and retailers about the types of products they had interested in, what they told us was they didn't think there was any one company that would be able to provide every potential solution that they may want to use. So if you think about the diversity of agriculture in the U.S., a guy in Louisiana may have a different set of challenges than the guy in New York State or North Dakota or North Carolina. So we're building a portfolio of solutions that will help them address problems on a broad base, or they may be more region specific. And I'll give you some examples. So as Jason mentioned, we started with our SmartBox legacy system, which applied soil-applied insecticides. So we have several soil-applied insecticides that we have available now, also in the SIMPAS system. We've added a soil-applied fungicide for soybeans coming to the portfolio. We have some soil health products. Soil health is a topic that's gained a lot of traction recently, and I can give you an example where that's applicable. Let's say you're applying anhydrous ammonia in the fall, and when you apply anhydrous ammonia, you're having an impact on the soil microbiome. So those good, positive microbes in the soil are affected by that anhydrous ammonia. So you can come back in with a soil health product and to some degree rejuvenate or reintroduce additional positive microbes into the soil, which helps mitigate potential stress, whether it's too hot, too dry, compacted zone, high pH, low pH. You add products to the soil that can help you overcome a potential yield stressor that may come later in the season. In addition to those products, we've also gone out now, so insecticides, fungicides, plant health products, soil health products. We have a nitrogen fixing product we're bringing forward. We're working with a company called Azotic on a product called Invita. And a lot of people will say, well, I apply synthetic nitrogen. Well, the price of synthetic nitrogen has gone up substantially.
Right.
And when you're planning in your field, you're going to look at that given field and you're going to say, where are my highest yielding zones and where I might have some problem zones, and what's the rate of synthetic nitrogen I want to use to address the majority of the field. Whatever rate you pick, you're going to be a little high or a little low somewhere in the field. By using a product like Invita, a grower can now come in and say, if here's a zone that, say, is a propensity for water to stand, everyday water stands, you lose 4 to 6% of your nitrogen. So I can add a supplemental biological product like Invita to give me incremental fixing nitrogen capability just in that zone. In your highest yielding zone, we've all heard about the diminishing rate of return for synthetic nitrogen.
Sure.
When you get to that next unit of nitrogen, you don't get the same benefit. So you want to get as close to that as you can get, but then use products like Invita to push that crop over the top and get that incremental yield that growers are so importantly looking for.
Interesting stuff, fascinating. Tell you what, we're going to talk about how farmers can get started in this system after we take a short break, if you don't mind. So we're going to take a break right here. But before we go, we're going to open up our phone lines. And that's right, you can join the program too. There's a toll-free phone number. Here it is, jot it down right now, 877-731-7627. 877-731-6733. 877-731-6733. Call in now with your questions, and Jason and Jim will answer them live. And don't forget to check out their website at SIMPAS.com/RAL for Rural America Live. We'll have more right after this. Welcome back to Rural America Live with SIMPAS-applied Solutions tonight. Our phone lines are open. And in case you didn't have a chance to grab a pen right before the break, here is that number once again. Jot it down right now. 877-731-6733. And the team here from AMVAC is here with us tonight, and they'll answer your questions. We're talking about how their products can help your yields and ultimately your bottom line. All right, so right before the break, Jim, I was going to ask you how farmers can get started in this SIMPAS system, because they may be thinking, oh my gosh, that sounds so complicated. I can't do this by myself. They might feel overwhelmed. How do they get started?
Well, probably the first place to start is sit down with their agronomist. In many cases, that's their retail agronomist, the precision retailer that they're doing business with already, that's helping them with variable rate fertilizer or variable rate seeding applications. So to sit down and talk about, let's look field by field and talk about what are the agronomic issues and challenges we're facing that we want to have a management plan to address for the coming season. And, you know, fall's a great time to assess what you saw this last season. Do you have a pest problem? Do you have weed problems? Did you have the kind of yield you were anticipating? And if you didn't, start peeling back the onion, if you will, of what's the issue at hand here. So it really starts with a good agronomic discussion with a trusted advisor. Again, could be a retail agronomist, a consultant, or your own agronomist with some of these large operations. Now, from an equipment point of view, the next step, once you assess that there are SIMPAS-applied solutions that are relevant, you would pick up the phone and you would call a Trimble Select retailer and talk to them about getting a quote for your specific planter. And Jason can elaborate a little bit more about Trimble's involvement here with SIMPAS.
Yeah, good idea.
Yeah, so Trimble is a partnering organization with us. We're leveraging their distribution network, and not every Trimble dealer is participating, so it is a Trimble Select, a select set of Trimble dealers that are participating with us, but they provide us a network to sell, install, and service the SIMPAS equipment in the field. So once you identify the needs that you have, that's when the farmer would then decide if they want to move forward to look at purchasing the equipment, and we have Trimble dealers set up who are trained to work with farmers who are interested in buying the equipment.
And of course, Trimble has been known for a long time for their expertise in GPS systems, and it's all interwoven together, and there's some good synergy right there.
One example.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So one example, and one of the reasons why we like having Trimble as part of the system as a partner, is one of our very first beta growers, a multi-generation family farms about 4,200 acres in Iowa. I think the son was planting corn late on a Friday night. It was 8 or 9 o'clock in the evening, and he had questions about, I don't remember what I need to push or what's going on with the system. It was new to him. So he calls the Trimble hotline, and he gets a Trimble technician. He was in Iowa planting corn. The technician was sitting at home in Indiana. That technician was able to dial into that monitor, see what was going on, answer his questions, tell him what buttons he needed to push, actually see and push the buttons himself, and make sure that he can continue planting. And growers are so sensitive about when it's planting time, they want to make sure nothing is delaying them. So one of the reasons why we like having Trimble as part of that system is that great customer service and that great ability to service those systems out in the field in real time.
Some hand-holding while you're right out there in the field. That's an amazing story. I'm glad you shared that. I appreciate that. You want to take a phone call?
Sure.
All right. Well, I understand that we actually have Will on the line calling in from Arkansas. Will, I'm glad you called in. What's your question for the team?
Yeah, guys, thanks for taking my call. Seems like some really cool tech, but I'm wondering, are all the products that you were listing off earlier, are they all compatible to be applied in-furrow simultaneously?
I'll take that question as it relates to SIMPAS-applied solutions. So the great thing about many or most of the SIMPAS-applied solutions is there are already products that growers are using on a whole field basis. So they're known, well, trusted products like Counter, products like Aztec, micronutrients like zinc. So they're products that are already being used in that type of a fashion. The difference is they're being used whole field, and they're being mixed together whole field in the furrow, versus now they're being mixed just prescriptively when and where they're needed.
All right, so you talked about the prescriptive solutions and how they're generated. Does your crop consultant come up with that? Does the farmer have to do that on his own, or is it a team effort? How do you do that?
I'm going to pass that one to Jason, but again, it's a combination effort. A grower knows a lot about their operation. They know the history of their operation, but so does their trusted advisor, whether that be a consultant or a retailer. So as I mentioned, where that trusted advisor probably is already engaged in writing scripts for variable rate macro fertilizer or variable rate seeding, they'll now get engaged in writing scripts for those variable rate inputs.
All right, Jason, explain how this works.
Sure, and it's probably the most common question that we get. In fact, 6 years ago, I was at the Farm Progress Show, and I was explaining the concept of SIMPAS, and farmers get it. They are the best stewards of our land. They want to be sustainable. They understand what we're trying to do, and they're excited to do it. But the first question is, how do I get a prescription for the products that are going to be applied? And we want to try to demystify that a little bit, but Jim hit it on the head, that really it's about that farmer working with their trusted advisor, whether that's a retail agronomist, an independent consultant, or even an on-staff agronomist on their own operation. But it also could capitalize on the farmer or trusted advisor's institutional knowledge of the field. They may know specific parts of a field that are low-lying areas that might be more susceptible to fungus pressure, that they want to apply a supplemental fungicide at planting. They may know they have high spots that are sandy where nematodes could be, and that institutional knowledge of their farm can be translated into a prescription, but they can also use a lot of other factors, data sources, soil sampling, elevation, topography, aerial maps. Those types of data points can be used to build a prescription, but it follows the same exact prescriptive workflow that an agronomist would use today to develop prescriptions for seed or for fertilizer. All you need to do is create a shapefile based on whatever data you use to develop those prescriptions for those products, easily upload it to ultimusag.com, and it'll insert some untreated checks and format the prescription for then it to be uploaded into the control system.
Jim, a little bit ago you mentioned that story that was related to Iowa and the success story you had with working with the Trimble and that particular farmer who was out planting late at night. You must have triggered a thought, because we have Greg calling in from Iowa right now. And Greg, if you're on the line, thank you for calling in. I appreciate that. And what's your question for the AMBAC team?
Yeah, thanks so much. So I was just questioning if the SIMPAS would fit on my Case 2100 series planter with a 30-inch row spacing.
All right.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that one.
Okay.
So, like I said before, we've developed planter-specific brackets. We do have a bracket for the Case 2100 series, and we're fitting on 30-inch rows as well. So we've got you covered, Greg. You just talk to your participating Trimble dealer who could provide you a quote for the equipment, and they'd incorporate your unique planter configuration for that.
All right, Jim, I want to come back to you. Why is it important to expand your portfolio of products that are available through that SIMPAS-applied system there?
Well, from a strategy of how we're building that portfolio, as I mentioned before, is the problems that a grower in the South may be different than a grower in the North or somewhere in between. So even though there's some commonalities, corn rootworm tends to be an upper Midwest challenge. Nematodes can sometimes be more aggressive and more prevalent in the South. I was up in New York State recently, where they talked about their primary focus was what's going to increase my tonnage of corn silage and milk production. So again, their objectives may be different as you go from area to area, and the types of products that they're already using, that they're already comfortable with, they can look at those products and say, is there an opportunity now to use those products more efficiently, more effectively? If you look at the yield results for a lot of different at-plant inputs, it looks very similar, where the majority of times you're winning, but there are times where you really get a bigger hit, a bigger benefit. And so if you understand what's the environment that's causing that product to perform at a higher level, you can really target those zones. Again, increase your efficiency, increase your return on investment.
So what products are part of the portfolio right now?
As we mentioned, insecticides, fungicides, soil health, plant health, nitrogen-fixing microbes, micronutrients for both corn, for soybeans. So that this system isn't just capable of applying products in corn. So you have problems in your soybean field. So from a grower's perspective, you get broader utility of that system. We're also targeting products in cotton, in peanuts. We'll branch out to other crops like sugar beets down the road. So again, our goal is to build that portfolio by crop, by region, and to make sure we have solutions that a grower can say, what are my yield limiting factors and what product can I utilize within this system to address those yield limiters?
Seems like the combinations are almost endless.
There are a lot of combinations, and I go back to my story from the grower in Iowa. One of the reasons why this grower was one of our beta customers, he came to us at a Commodity Classic show and said, I want to be one of your first guys to use this system in the field, because he knew in his diverse 4,200 acre operation, he's got multiple soil types, he's got slope, he's got sand, he's got, I think it was 17 different soil types across that farm that he knows he doesn't treat them the same with seed, he doesn't treat them the same with fertilizer, and it was a next logical step that he might want to start treating his inputs a little differently as well.
Well, I know we've got producers just all across North America that are just aching to be more efficient on their operations right now. And we want to invite everybody to call in. If you have questions about this SIMPAS system, we invite you to call in right now. There's a toll-free number, and it's 877-731-6733. And you can call in and talk to Jim. You can talk to Jason and ask them right now while we're live on the air. All right, we have John calling in from Wisconsin with a question. I'm glad you called in there, John. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. What's your question? I invite you to call in right now.
Hey, my name's John from Wisconsin. I guess my question goes back to the ink cartridge analogy and the subscription that you basically have to pay for ink cartridges, and I guess I'm curious whether is there a additional fee for these cartridges when you put it into the infrastructure? Thank you so much.
Interesting. All right, you want to tackle that?
So I'll answer that question.
All
so
right.
There's a couple different components. So there's the hardware, the equipment that they purchase from Trimble. So there's that expense. And then as you think about the SIMPAS-applied solutions and in the cartridges, they're filled by the manufacturer. So they come to the farm already filled. The farmer doesn't open, doesn't pour, doesn't mix. So they come from the manufacturer already ready to use. And we've taken a unique approach here in that we're pricing these products by the acre. When we talk to growers about pricing products and pricing ideas, they said the first thing I'm going to do with a price per pound is convert it to a price per acre. So if you can present it to me in a price per acre, that cuts out a step. So we price these products per acre. We sell them through retail agents, so the same retailers that people are doing business with today for their traditional whole field applications. They talk to that retailer, and that retailer would help them evolve that prescription. And then the unique part of SIMPAS is you only pay for what you apply, right? So if I have a 100-acre field and I'm only applying a nematicide on 60 acres of the 100 acres, I only get billed for the 60 acres of product I use.
Now, how do they know that?
Well, the system is actually we refer to it as smart tags. So every smart cartridge has a readable, writable RFID tag. And we use those RFID tags for several things. One, we track the container from manufacturer all the way through the distribution channel to the farm and back. And it also captures the information about what's being applied at what rate, where in the field. So not only does a grower get an automated as-applied record, so he has his prescription, he has a record that's automatically generated of what was applied by field, acre by acre. He also has the ability then to utilize our verification system at the end of the season and say, I'm going to opt into this ag verification where I'm going to have those check blocks and I'm going to get a return on investment calculation back at the end of the season that tells me, here's the dollars I earned for every dollar I invested in that input.
So you don't have a shed full of material sitting there at the end of the year.
I can't tell you over my 40 years how many times I've walked in a machine shed and you see a mysterious box along the side of the wall. And this eliminates that. These are returnable, refillable containers. The container itself has a 10-year lifespan, so that's good for the environment in that we're not creating a lot of waste from containers that are getting shredded and disposed of. So it's returnable, refillable. They're dedicated to a product, so once a product goes in, we know that that RFID tag says this is a counter container or this is a zinc container. There's also some helpful benefits for the grower. If, let's say a grower, the rush of the planting season, he's putting his cartridges on the planter and he puts one of the cartridges into the wrong slot. The system will be aware, based on that RFID, that, oh, that was the nematicide slot and you put a micronutrient into it. So it will alert him on row 7, you need to move that cartridge from slot 1 to slot 3 based on his prescription. So there's kind of some safety check and balances. Let's say you have some hired hand that's less familiar with the products themselves. This takes out some of that guesswork. Again, no opening, no pouring, no mixing. Place the cartridge and it'll tell you if you got the cartridge in the right spot and go. Spend your time planting, not doing guesswork.
It's almost dummy proof.
Well, I would never use that description of a farmer. But again, at the end of the day, it's about how do I improve that time management? How do I improve the amount of time or get to a more efficient planting process? And with these high-speed planters, we can plant a lot of acres in a day these days.
So have you been able to quantify just what kind of value producers are getting from using the SIMPAS-applied Solutions system on their farm?
I can give you some examples. It's hard to speak of it in the whole in that so many operations are different, but I can give you a couple examples here from 2021. So in 2021, we had a grower using a nematicide, and I referenced this before. He had a 100-acre field. He knew he had pressures of nematodes. He had used counter before, and he'd seen a yield benefit by using counter on the whole field. This year, or in 2021, he went in and he focused, here's where I think I have nematodes in the worst or the highest level of threat. So he only used the product in those 60 acres and he saw a 20 bushel yield response. Now, he was never getting a 20 bushel yield response from a whole field perspective. He was getting something less than that. So not only did he save the 40 acres of input cost, he could really measure what kind of impact he was getting from that specific input where he really had the problem. Another example I can give you is we were talking to a grower about his operation. This was a large 3,000-acre operation, and we were talking about an individual field, and that field was 177 acres.
Okay.
If that grower, he was looking at a rootworm product, a nematicide product, and a micronutrient product. If he used a flat rate of all 3 products across 177 acres, it would have cost him almost $10,000 for that 177 acres. When we went to the prescription, it worked out to about 60% was getting a rootworm product, about 40% was getting a nematicide, and a little less than that was getting a zinc product. Now his input bill was $4,500. All right, so there's a $4,000 to $5,000 savings just on that one field. If you multiplied that across his 3,000 operation, that could have been a $40,000 to $50,000 savings in input. Now, what we find is growers, when they get that opportunity to make that incremental savings, they can drop it to the bottom line, or they can ask the question, what's the next biggest yield limiting factor I can address that I didn't have to spend in this field? Now perhaps I can go solve another problem somewhere else.
Did I hear you mention before we came on the air that you actually have a calculator to assist in this?
We do. We have a SIMPAS-applied Solutions calculator where a grower can go in and insert information about their operation, how many acres of corn, how many acres of soybeans, how many row planter do you have, how often do you trade that planter? You can look at it and say, what type of yield benefit am I expecting for a given input and actually play with the numbers to see where's my break even, where's my benefit. And what we find is somewhere between 1 to 2 bushels is what the break even across an operation. Let's say a 3,000 acre operation, a guy that trades his planter every 4 to 5 years, it's only about a bushel or 2 to break even on the cost of that equipment. So when you think about it, again, it's a way to do some what-if scenarios for a grower's operation, get that quote from Trimble, and then actually say, what do I need to achieve to make sure I'm paying for that opportunity?
I'll bet the returns this year have been more exaggerated than average just because of the high input costs and everything. That calculator would be great for something like that.
Well, we're very interested to find out as growers complete harvest. We'll be looking to gather that information and, again, sit down and talk about another unique feature of SIMPAS is if I write a prescription this year, I can look at that result. I can look at my harvest results and then start assessing, do I need to contract that prescription area or do I need to expand that? If I was using a product like iron for iron chlorosis, did I get the benefit I expected or do I need to think about altering the rate to some degree? So it is a learning process. And by having that ability to get that spatial analysis at the end of the year, I can continue to refine and learn and grow and get better at those prescriptions over time.
I'll tell you what, we're going to take another break, and when we come back, then we'll be taking more of your calls. Here's that phone number if you want to jot it down, 877-731-6733. You can be a part of the program as well. And don't forget their website. Great information there, and you can go there by going to simpas.com/RAL for Rural America Live. We'll have more right after this. Welcome back to Rural America Live with SIMPAS-applied Solutions. This is your chance to call in and you can ask your questions to our experts from AMVAC tonight. And if you want to know if their products could work for you, you can give us a call toll free. That number 877-731-6733. We've already had some great questions so far tonight. Well, how are farmers and retailers actually using the SIMPAS-applied Solutions? Jim, I understand you have put together a little video that explains that a little bit. Is that right?
Yes, we have 2 growers, a multi-generational family from Iowa, Jason and Jared Orr, that make a few comments, as well as a family-run large independent retailer from Iowa, that Osmus Farm Supply, where Harlan and Amy Osmus run that, and their agronomist Nate Eitzman have been very key to help us learn about the system early on and have been early adopters, early innovators.
Interesting. All right. Well, let's roll that video right now.
Jason Orr, 5th generation Iowa farmer in northeast Iowa. We raise all corn in a little town of Rowley. Truthfully, I think SIMPAS is going to be a game changer in the way a farmer looks at in-furrow application of all products. Not necessarily, insecticides, but fertilizers, fungicides, you name it.
It's new technology. We feel it's cutting edge. It gives growers a whole new opportunity to variable rate, prescriptively apply inputs that they can't do now.
We have closed system delivery, so we can work on worker safety and some of those other issues that are becoming more and more in the public's priority list to work on, and SIMPAS checks a lot of those boxes.
It's very important to have these tools to help support our growers, whether they're very progressive within technology or they're not.
All smart cartridge containers are returnable, so a farmer doesn't actually pay for all the product in the container. When he applies SIMPAS-applied Solutions, he pays by the acre.
As a retail partner of AMVAC, to be given the opportunity to be a toll repackager of these smart cartridges means growth for the company. It means more job opportunities for local people and economic stimulus.
If they listen to what's coming in the future, just talking to the AMVAC guys and hearing all their future plans as far as liquid integrated into it goes. Just the endless possibilities that are coming down the chain are really exciting. I think if they're skeptical now, they need to stay tuned.
Little success story there, I would say.
Yeah, in the case of the oars, they were one of our beta customers with a 12-row system, and then the second year added a 24-row system. So again, when you think about a lot of these large, diverse operations, they're not just running one planter, they're running multiple planters. So we're excited by the opportunity to serve those types of customers. They're very innovative. It's refreshing when you go to their farms and their operations to learn about how much they care and their goals and their objectives and how we can help them meet them.
I bet it's great, Jason, when you hear stories like this, and that's going to be real reassuring to the job that you're doing right now, and it's got to give you a warm, fuzzy feeling helping people out like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm obviously committed to the technology, but really when you hear it from others, the vision that they see for what you're passionate about is really what makes it worth it. And Osmus Farm Supply are great partners, and they see the benefit for their retail operation to differentiate them in the market and to leverage their expertise from their agronomists like Nate Eitzman to develop prescriptions for their farmers, identify the needs that can be addressed, and bring those prospective farmers forward who could benefit from the technology, because then they, as retail partners for those farmers, benefit as well.
Can you go into a little more detail about maybe that technology and some of the features of that system, how it all works together?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a video that kind of shows some of the key features of the equipment itself. So again, we talked about how it's an aftermarket solution. It fits on multiple planter types. It's easy to install with planter-specific brackets. So we can see a green row unit that the unit fits on with the planter-specific brackets that are very easy to install for the Trimble dealer to work with the farmer to get the partition assembly on. The smart cartridge containers contain the SIMPAS-applied solutions that go through the system to address the agronomic needs that the farmer has so that they can turn those yield barriers into profit potential. And it's a closed delivery system. It allows a farmer to install the container and lock it in place before that valve can open. So it eliminates opening, pouring, and mixing, which is a benefit to the farmer for faster and safer handling, benefit to the environment from a stewardship perspective as well. Allows you to apply multiple products at one time, granular or liquid, and we can switch it out from a green row unit to a red row unit with just the switching of a bracket. And just as we can switch out the brackets, we can switch out the smart cartridge containers to put a liquid container in and a liquid pump to give that farmer versatility, flexibility to meet the specific needs of their operation by applying the combination of products that are going to provide them the best yield benefit and potential in developing the management zones so that when that tractor goes over that field, it's turning on and off the products that need to be applied where they should go and not where they don't.
So are you still actively working on expanding maybe into brackets for other planters and that sort of thing as well?
Absolutely. So we've developed a broad set of brackets to apply to a lot of different planter types that are most common in the industry today. We're constantly evolving our technology. We're learning as we go. One of the benefits of working with progressive farmers like Orr Farms and progressive retailers like Osmus Farm Supply is we get feedback that we can take and then make improvements. This is a constant evolution. We're always trying to identify what are opportunities for us to develop new solutions so that we can broaden the set of farmers that could benefit from this technology.
All right, Jim, a big catchword these days is sustainability. Is there anything that SIMPAS-applied Solutions system can do to help with farmers and their sustainability goals?
Well, if you ask 10 people to define sustainability, you probably get 10 different answers.
I agree, yeah.
But from our perspective is understanding that farmers' objectives, understanding that retailers' objectives, and trying to think about how can the system help achieve those objectives. And I'll use one example. We have a carbon market evolving now in the U.S. And I don't know where that's going to land or where that's going to be ultimately, but one of the things by having an as-applied record, by being able to document row by row, field by field, where products were applied and how they were applied and at what rate, and have that all be automated in the record-keeping system. If there's a product that can earn a credit toward a carbon market, then we have a verifiable record system that says, I use this product in this zone, and I have an automated record to document it.
All right, so we're coming closer to the end of the program here, but I want to make sure that our viewers at home know how they can get started in this system. Is it hard to do or not? Can you walk us through that?
As we were discussing earlier, it really starts with assessing what are the agronomic issues I want to try to tackle. Are they aligned with the SIMPAS-applied solutions that are available in my area? And sit down with that retail agronomist or that trusted advisor, come up with a plan, and it's never too early to start planning. Whether it's now or a month from now, it's having a clear line of sight. What am I going to need? What am I going to need to do before to get ready for that planting season, and start that process in motion? Whether it's our system, somebody else's system, start that planning process sooner than later. And once you've done that, pick up the phone, call that Trimble Select dealer, and get a quote for the system. They'll give you a very specific quote based on your specific planner. And then from there, we have a staff of people that are more than willing to help facilitate the process and talk to them about, here's where we are today with solutions, and here's where we're going in the future with solutions.
All right. Do you have incentives that you're offering right now for getting this system on your own operation?
We have a couple incentives. Right now, we're holding the pricing flat. With inflation going crazy in a lot of categories of products, we've not taken any price change going in here through at least the 1st of November. So again, I would suggest to a grower, if he's interested in this system, have that conversation, talk to Trimble. We're holding that pricing through early fall. The other opportunity a grower has is we've engaged with John Deere and Rabo Finance. So we have a finance offer for the grower where he can finance the SIMPAS-applied solutions. So he would register online, get qualified by John Deere or Rabobank, and essentially we're offering an early incentive of a 2.65% finance rate with harvest terms on those SIMPAS-applied solutions, well below the current prime rate.
So on the screen, if we can bring that back up here for just a second, that graphic that we just had up there. If you want to learn more about the incentives, you can go to ambac.com/campaign/incentives. But in the meantime, I would recommend everybody go to your website, and you have a special website URL that you set up just for the show tonight.
Yeah, so we'd encourage everybody to go to simpas.com/RAL for Rural America Live. You can find all sorts of information about the equipment, the solutions that are available, what's coming in the future. You'll have access to the calculators to personalize what the system could do for your operation, and also to allow you to find providers of who you should go talk to for a next step.
Well, I sure do appreciate you guys coming in and talking about a very valuable program and a system. I hope everybody checks it out. And you're welcome back anytime. All right.
Thank you, Marlon. We appreciate it.
Yeah, if you want to talk more about it, and I wish you all the best. I think it's a terrific system, so I hope people learn a lot more about it. Jim and Jason joining us. Well, again, I do appreciate you joining us as well for this very special edition. I appreciate that very much. In the meantime, good night from Rural America's most important network.